Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. When I saw this, I thought it must be a joke or AI.
No, it's not easy growing up in this day and age. I know there are pressures on young men that are difficult to talk about and questions that frankly are difficult to answer. Questions about mental health, masculinity, social media. I remember when we watched Adolescence together, and as a dad, it was tough to see at times.
Yeah, talk about using your son, in my view, in an attempt to be more relatable and garner sympathy. He's done that once before with the Lord Alley Flatgate, with exams and dates that didn't add up. But it gets worse.
Hello. How are you? Nice to see you. Very good to see you.
Does he remind you of anyone? He's turning into the UK version of Joe Biden.
United Kingdom. Where's the United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Where? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice. And I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others. And
yes, somebody else got a bit confused on the stage too. It was all a bit embarrassing, really.
We all know the great Prime Minister of the UK, and we just signed a document. This is... Sorry about that.
A very important document.
A little windy out here. Give me that.
Keir Starmer is about as popular as a bucket of sick. Since he was elected 17 months ago, he's been on 42 trips abroad, possibly because back at home he is the least popular Prime Minister this country has never seen. He's always away, along with his Chancellor Rachel Reeves, drowning in her own tears. She's completely out of her depth. Rachel was voted the least popular Chancellor ever, and in a recent YouGov poll, 0% felt that Labour were doing a good job on the economy. Yes, that is 0, so that is no one. The others aren't much better.
That trans women don't have ovaries, but a cervix, I understand, is something that you can have.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
And amidst all the scandals now, Defence Secretary John Healey is in a spot of bother for a council tax cock-up. Need I go on? I'd be here all day. It's only been 17 months. And to top things off, Labour's London Mayor Sadiq Khan is in charge of our great capital, is also escaping his problems back at home. He recently flew out to Africa, business class, with a team of 11, costing the taxpayers 83 grand.
But possibly one of the budget savings you could have made was the cost of your Africa trip, which cost the taxpayer £83,000. You took an entourage of 11 staff to South Africa alone. Can you explain? By the way, this was on business class, so good for you. I hope they took care of you on the flight. Can you explain why such a large team was essential, or does streamlining only ever apply to everyone else's footprint but yours?
It's the role of the Mayor of London to champion the capital as an exceptional place to live, work, study and invest in. The purpose of the visit was to promote London.
Yeah, in the meantime, London is in the grips of a crime epidemic.
I'm like against the wall. And I was literally like right about to arrive for my audition. So I've like had to come in. And I'm trying to like gather myself, but I'm so shaken because obviously I had that phone attack happen to me, and it's like so nerve-wracking for me being out in central London now.
That was Bridgerton star Genevieve Chanel. And the other week it was Kirsty Gallagher. I don't know about you, but I can't take this government seriously. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. And when GB News is often missed out when it comes to press questions, it's difficult to have any sympathy for them. Welcome to Clown World. Only the joke is on us. Another embarrassing trip, literally.
Hello. How are you? Nice to see you. Very good to see you.
Well, I'm joined now by political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Matthew, come on, that was hilarious, wasn't it? I mean, the AI thing was a bit much, but then... Am I being unfair?
I did have my head in my hands, Nana, when Keir Starmer made public that letter to his son. I mean, the one thing you presumably don't want as a 17-year-old is a public letter, video letter to your dad when he's such an unpopular prime minister. But look, I think it would be a big mistake for Labour to move against Keir Starmer right now. And it was always predictable that Labour were going to have a really big challenge in the first couple of years in power to show the country that they could make things better. And it does take time to turn a country around. I think most people watching feel that there are many elements of our country that do need turning around. One of the problems that Keir Starmer has, and yes, he hasn't helped himself at times, but one of the problems he has is the toxicity of social media. Tory prime ministers, Tory ministers will be able to tell you the same from their time in power as well. But if you move against the prime minister now and you start the merry-go-round that we saw during those Conservative years when they had 5 prime ministers in just 8 years, a bucket load of Home Secretaries and Chancellors of the Exchequer, then I don't think you can show yourself to be a serious party of government. Now, do I want Starmer to lead the Labour Party into the next election against Nigel Farage? At this stage, probably not. But I think he needs to do his bit now to try and dig his party and this country out of the trench that we find ourselves in. And if he fails to do that in the next couple of years, then yes, at that point, I think Labour will probably have to bring in a new leader to take on Nigel Farage.
Yeah, but the problem is, during that time, if they continue with him, and he has been voted the least popular Prime Minister ever since the records began, alongside his Chancellor Rachel Reeves, the party have literally stumbled from one catastrophe to the next. Even Beth Rigby was saying, "You are the chaos." Something needs to give. Otherwise, I don't even think they're going to make it through till the next general election, because I don't think people will wash it, really.
Well, that last statement is meaningless, Nana, because there's no mechanism for them not to make it through to the next general election. They have a massive majority, and unless Keir Starmer calls an early election and it's voted on in Parliament, there will not be an early general election.
Well,
there has clearly been...
Well, there are. I mean, if there's an economic disaster or something like that, people can call for a general election.
You can call for a general election. We can all call for a general election. Doesn't mean there's the constitutional mechanism by which that would eventuate. Listen, there has been chaos in Number 10. There's no doubt about it. We saw it a year ago with the departure after just a few months of Sue Gray. We saw it then. We had a reset at the start of this parliamentary period in September, October, and then we've had the chaos in recent weeks. No doubt about it, and Starmer has to grip that. One of the problems that they have is their incapacity to tell a coherent story, and of course critics of Starmer will point to this notion that he doesn't really know what he stands for, other than, and I don't doubt it, that he wants generally to make this country better, but his critics will say that he doesn't really stand for anything. He's U-turned far too many times. First of all, he said one thing to become Labour leader, then he said another to become Prime Minister, then he said that he wasn't going to raise taxes ahead of the last election, and he did raise taxes, and then Rachel Reeves came back and said she's not coming back for more, and it looks almost certain as though she will come back to come back for more. So there is a sense that there is a black hole at the heart of government, and things get sucked into that. There's no doubting, just look at the polls, which you've already referenced, there's no doubting that Labour are in a hole. However, I think he needs to take responsibility, drag the government, drag the party, drag the country back from the brink, show that they have done some good things, breakfast clubs, a massive increase in NHS appointments, which will make a real life difference to people watching these programs and so forth. He needs to tell that story. He's lost the initiative. He lost the initiative over the summer. I made that point after the summer to reform. They need to be on the front foot. They need to be far more assertive. They cannot do that if Starmer is challenged. I don't think he will be seriously challenged. I think he will take Labour forward over the next couple of years. My question is he the right person to lead Labour into the next general election? And I certainly remain to be convinced.
Well, I mean, Keir Starmer could get a vote of no confidence, couldn't he? And that in itself would mean that his party are not behind him, in which case that could, if somebody then comes in instead of him, it's almost like there is not a legitimate mandate for them to lead in a way. So just like when, for example, Theresa May and other leaders have taken on the place of a current sitting elected Prime Minister, they don't really have the support of the public, as it were. It's almost like they are kind of a fake kind of leader that they haven't been given. So that is a risk if they do change the leader as well. And that's the sort of thing that can egg on a general election.
Well, look, there are plenty of people who'd like to have a general election, although I suspect not Nigel Farage, not Zia Youssef. They are desperate to have more time to do the work that they no doubt understand that they have to do to become a remotely serious party of government. I would say that they're not and will not be a remotely serious party of government. But from their perspective, I very much doubt that Farage and his 4 MPs want a general election now. I don't think that Kemi Badenoch wants a general election now because they're facing an existential threat, as you've already pointed out in your monologue or in the headlines. So I don't see a general election coming soon. I take your point that if Labour were replaced now, and if Starmer were replaced now, and I've argued very strongly that he shouldn't be, then you can start to say, well, there's a bit of a democratic deficit, as we saw when the Tories kept replacing their leader. I don't think they'll do it. I think they'd be mad to do it. The 2 MPs who've come out so far and broken cover are relatively fringe MPs, Clive Lewis and Nadia Whitcomb among the 2 of them. I don't think that they stand for the parliamentary party. There is no doubt, Nana, that MPs are concerned. Of course they are. They stand to lose their seats if things continue.
Jobs, yeah.
But I think they need to rally behind the Prime Minister. I think they need to give him the best chance to fulfil his mandate, and he needs to step up. And yes, he has spent an awful lot of time abroad, and I think he probably needs to roll his sleeves back, get his hands dirty, and show the British public that he can govern at home.
Well, just to correct that as well, Reform UK have 5 MPs, not 4.
I said Nigel Farage and his 4 MPs, so he's one of the 5.
All right. OK, fair enough. I'll give you that. All right. Thank you very much, Matthew Stadlen.
That's the first time you've given me anything, Nana.
Yes, I know. And very generous of me too. All right. Thank you very much, Matthew Stadlen. Good to talk to you. As political commentator Matthew Stadlen with his thoughts. What are yours?